Hey everybody on YouTube, Karl Alexander here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at a little indie title I picked up on a recent Steam sale called The Long Dark. So let's get into it. The Long Dark is a first-person open-world survival game that was released as Steam Early Access in late 2014 by the Canadian developer Hinterlands. As this is in early access, the build I'm reviewing doesn't reflect a finished product. The version offers an early look at the Sandbox mode, with the story mode coming later in 2016. The game takes place in the Canadian wilderness after your plane crashes during a geomagnetic disaster, and you're forced to survive off the land. It currently features the Sandbox game mode, with 3 difficulties and 5 regions to explore. Though The Long Dark won't be pushing many people's hardware, its visuals are still impressive. With a full day-night cycle, good lighting, and weather effects, you get some picturesque scenes in this game. The textures remind me of construction paper, colorful but slightly muted, which works well with the game's frigid conditions. Snowfall, wind, and distance fog are all used close to perfection in combining graphical effects with gameplay. Walking around when the wind is low and the snow is falling, the game can seem so calm, but without a moment's notice the weather can take a turn. Your visibility is gone and snow is whirling around you. None of these effects are technically impressive, they are old and simple techniques, but used in such a great way. Because of the minimalistic look of the game, it's easy to get lost in a storm, adding to the realism. The art is simple but consistent. All the items and creatures fit in with the world. I really appreciate that the entire game is believable. There are no mythical animals or over-the-top visuals. It's all grounded in things we can relate to, making the style work even without all the bells and whistles other games have. The sound is some of the best I've heard in a long time. All the effects are high quality and really give you a sense of how cold and rough the environment is. Being inside a log cabin with wood creaking and the wind blowing sets a tone that very few games can. However simple the graphics are, the sound pulls you in and makes it seem real. The music is mostly short tracks that happen when finding new locations, during certain times of the day, and just at random intervals. The music is simple and short, but very powerful, adding to the idea that you are in the dying days of the earth. You are one of the last people who will ever live, and the entire soundscape of the game pulls you into this idea. And really the entire game pulls you into that idea. Its presentation highlights the terrifying beauty of nature. So without a story mode to talk about, let's jump right into the gameplay. The goal in The Long Dark is simple: survive. You'll need to manage your body temperature, energy level, calorie stores, and thirst. This is the first thing The Long Dark gets right. It keeps the number of stats to track low, but lets you decide on how to fulfill each of those needs. For example, if you're hungry, you can scrounge for food, go hunting, or go ice fishing. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages, and it's up to you to make the right decision in how to spend your precious energy. The interface is simple yet tells you everything you need to know. The first page shows a bar for each of your stats, the current temperature with your clothing bonus, any current afflictions, and how many hours of night or day that are left. The second page shows your inventory in a grid layout that's easy to use, and each item is distinct enough to see at a glance. It also has sorting options, and a bar showing how much you're currently carrying. The third screen is your journal that shows you some statistics, and allows you to make notes about each day you survive if you want. All the other interfaces, including firemaking, crafting, and searching for items, work the same way in a very unified interface. It's an easy to learn, clean interface that more games could use. 3 of your stats tie into one mechanic: fire building. Fire building is an essential skill, and as you build more fires, your percentage of failure goes down. Snow can be melted at a fire for water, and boiled to be purified. Food can be cooked to increase quality and reduce the chance of illness, and fire will passively heat you and reduce the effects of the cold. Because of how essential it is, finding a hatchet and wood is important early in the game. On my second playthrough, I couldn't find a hatchet, and I struggled to survive on wood I found on the ground. Other mechanics include crafting, which can be done at a specific bench somewhere in the level, usually inside or close by one of the inhabitable structures in a region. Crafting can be used to make fishing lines, snares to catch rabbits, healing items, and clothing. The clothing you can craft is better than anything you can find and is essential for long-term survival. Harvesting and repairing items is also important. Any item you use, such as hatchets, knives, guns, and clothes, take damage as you use them, and you'll need to repair them. Each time you repair an item, you gain skill points, and repairing becomes easier over time. Harvesting helps repairing and crafting by breaking down objects that are unneeded into parts. For example, old clothing can be broken down into cloth to repair new clothing, or used to craft bandages to heal wounds. Every single item in the game has a purpose and can be used for something. This concept is so refreshing. There is no random junk that can't be used. If you find an item, it has potential to help you survive, and knowing that makes learning the mechanics so much easier. Finding a new object simply allows you to find what it's used for, which then adds to your skill set. Learning to survive is progressive and may take a few tries before gaining a good strategy, but that's the fun of the early game. It doesn't feel like the game is hiding things from you. It feels like you have more to explore, making you try harder. The physical regions the game takes place in are quite large and have many structures to explore. Each also features a unique setting, though once you wander the map a few times, you'll know the general areas of where things are. Some locations like bunkers are randomly located, but most of the structures are always in the same places. However, items in the game are totally randomized, so you won't always find the same stuff in the same place, which makes starting a new game challenging since you take many of the objects you find for granted, especially on lower difficulties. Populating these regions are wild animals, such as wolves, deer, bears, and rabbits. All these animals can be hunted and harvested for meat, hides, and guts, which create food and crafting materials. On the Pilgrim difficulty, wolves and bears won't attack you, but on Voyager difficulty, wolves will usually attack you on sight. It's possible to find a hunting rifle or craft a survival bow to hunt these animals, though the ammunition is rare, so each shot will matter. My only real complaint about the game is the difficulty. The 3 difficulties the game provides are good, but in my opinion a customizable difficulty would really improve the experience. For example, I would really like to play the game with the calorie usage in the low difficulty, but the hostile animals and lower item spawns in the higher difficulties. Since the game is single player and the achievements don't seem to be tied to difficulty, I think it would be a good addition to give each person their own unique challenge. On the flip side, my favorite part of the game is the amount of planning that goes into every decision you make. When leaving your shelter could always lead to death, it makes you plan for every outcome. And even being fully prepared, you can end up struggling for your survival, being trapped without food in a blizzard, or suffering a wolf bite in the middle of the woods. The game's singular focus on survival is its best asset. As with most Sandbox games, The Long Dark is really fun starting out, but can become somewhat tiresome once you understand all its mechanics. The so-called endgame is a bit lacking as there is no final goal. Just like in Stranded Deep, SimCity, or really any open-ended simulation game, you have to decide when you're finished. I think an optional ending scenario could help add a bit of extra motivation to surviving. Surviving is fun for a good while, but won't entertain forever. Overall, the emergent gameplay of The Long Dark is impressive. I bought this game having no expectations and was immediately pulled in. Its simple mechanics and great atmosphere create some interesting scenarios. During my first playthrough, I was fighting against the wind, tired and hungry a few hundred meters from my cabin, and I couldn't go any further. My energy was ticking down and I was about to pass out. I set my bedroll down to let go. I faded into the long dark. Game over. No game in my memory has ever made me frantically try to survive the way this game has. The Long Dark is an excellent game. It may not appeal to the masses, but it has great visuals and compelling gameplay. The survival elements are exactly what they need to be, and it keeps the mechanics simple, making the game less about learning how to play and more about perfecting your own survival techniques. The difficulty could use some customization to give each person their own unique challenge, but overall the included modes are a good start. The endgame could be better as surviving can become somewhat monotonous, but with the story mode coming soon, that may change with a more narrative focus. So if you're looking for a fun and challenging game that's really impressive and isn't about complicated stats and skill points, and just about simple survival, then this is really worth picking up. I haven't played a game for this many hours in this short amount of time since Fallout 4 came out. It'll be difficult to start another game, just knowing that I could be getting better at The Long Dark. Okay everybody, that was my video for this week. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, I think you know what to do. Leave me a comment in the comment section and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. Coming up soon, maybe next week, maybe a little later, I'm going to be doing a little video on the Atari 400. It's a little computer from Atari from the 80s that I found in my mom's stuff while she was moving. I knew we had it, and it's the first time I've really ever had a chance to play around with it. So hopefully that'll be cool. Hope you'll enjoy that. See you then.